Imagine being a medieval king with unlimited wealth, massive castles, and powerful armies. Yet, your most terrifying enemy was the royal doctor, standing right next to your bed. In those days, elite medicine was not based on science, but on a bizarre ancient theory that believed human health was dictated by 4 fluctuating bodily fluids. These fluids, known as humors, consisted of blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Any imbalance meant you were sick, and the remedy was always pure torture. Ironically, the poorer citizens survived simply because they could not afford these fancy doctors, while the wealthy elite paid huge sums to be systematically tortured. To understand this madness, we must look at Whitehall Palace on February 2nd, 1685, where King Charles II of England woke up feeling quite uneasy. The king had been suffering from a painful sore foot, which historians believe was gout, making his usual royal stroll in the park absolutely impossible that morning. As a servant began to gently shave the royal face, the king suddenly shrieked, his eyes rolled back, and he collapsed to the floor in a violent seizure. Within a few hours, a desperate crowd of 14 royal doctors rushed into the bedroom, eager to save their beloved monarch using their elite medical knowledge. Feeling intense pressure to act immediately, the doctors determined that the king had too much blood in his system, which was causing his brain to overheat. A physician stepped forward with a sharp blade, slashed open the king's royal arm, and drained out 16 ounces of blood into a pewter bowl. But they did not stop there. To draw more humors away from the brain, they cut his shoulders and applied heated suction cups to pull out more blood. Next, the doctors turned their attention to his scalp. They shaved the king's royal hair to prepare his skin for a truly horrifying skin-blistering treatment. They smeared his shaved head with a toxic powder made from crushed Spanish fly beetles, which burned his skin and raised extremely painful, fluid-filled blisters. The chemical from these beetles was highly toxic, absorbing into his body and severely irritating his kidneys, which only added a new layer of internal agony. To complete this initial round of torture, the doctors forced a series of toxic chemical enemas and purgatives down the exhausted king's throat and bowels. By the second day, instead of recovering, the king was weaker. Yet the doctors believed their purges were working and ordered another round of intense bloodletting. They sliced his arm again, draining another 10 ounces of blood. The king's body was now severely dehydrated, his blood pressure dropping dangerously low with every cut. To restore his strength, the doctors turned to alchemy. They forced the dying king to drink a highly expensive potion called the Spirit of Human Skull. This bizarre remedy was exactly what it sounded like: the powdered skull of an executed criminal, distilled into a strong, foul-smelling alcoholic spirit. Unsurprisingly, the human skull drink did not cure his stroke. Instead, the raw alcohol and toxic ingredients only made the king violently ill and delirious. For 5 agonizing days, the palace bedroom became a torture chamber. The king's body was completely covered in painful burn blisters, cuts, and chemical residue. On the morning of February 6, 1685, King Charles knew the end was near. Surrounded by weeping nobles, he looked at his exhausted doctors. With his final breath, the polite king whispered his famous apology: "I am sorry, gentlemen, for being such an unconscionably long time a-dying." At noon, the monarch passed away at the age of 54. The political shockwaves were massive, but the public suspected something far more sinister. Rumors of poison quickly spread across England. Many suspected that political rivals had secretly murdered the king using some untraceable, exotic, toxic substance. But the chief physician, Sir Charles Scarborough, kept a detailed private diary of every single treatment, leaving a perfect medical record for future generations. 3 centuries later, modern medical experts reviewed Scarborough's diary and performed a retrospective autopsy on England's most famous Restoration king. The analysis revealed that King Charles originally suffered from uremia, a severe kidney dysfunction that caused his initial sudden seizure that morning. His kidneys were likely damaged by mercury exposure from his private science lab. But it wasn't the mercury or the stroke that ultimately killed him. The real killers were the doctors. Their aggressive treatments caused extreme dehydration, electrolyte loss, and shock, turning a mild stroke into a fatal tragedy, while English kings bled to death. France's son king, Louis XIV, was facing his own horrifying nightmare inside the golden walls of Versailles Palace. In 1677, a clumsy royal dentist attempting to pull several of the king's painful teeth made a catastrophic mistake, ripping completely through his palate. This left a permanent open hole between his mouth and nose. Whenever the monarch drank royal wine, the liquid would hilariously pour out of his nostrils. Without proper hygiene, the wound festered, giving the Sun King such terrible halitosis that courtiers would choke on his breath from several feet away. But his dental disaster was nothing compared to the crisis of 1686, when a painful abscess developed in a very sensitive, unmentionable area. The king had developed a painful anal fistula. Court doctors, terrified of surgery, began applying hot barley poultices and endless, useless herbal enemas instead. Unsurprisingly, the mushy poultices failed completely. By May, the infection worsened, leaving the absolute monarch of Europe completely unable to sit or ride horses. Desperate, the king bypassed his prestigious doctors and called Charles-François Félix de Tassy, a humble barber surgeon, to perform a highly risky surgery. Felix had never performed this delicate operation before. Terrified of failing and being executed, he demanded 6 months to practice his surgical technique. The government gathered over 70 healthy prisoners from local dungeons. Felix practiced slicing and repairing their flesh to perfect his newly designed surgical tools. He successfully invented a specialized curved scalpel called the Royal Probe, designed specifically to navigate and cut open the king's infected anal cavity. On November 18, 1686, at 8 a.m., the secret surgery took place in the royal bedchamber. The king endured the agony without any anesthesia. The operation was a massive triumph. Within 3 hours, the king was declared fully cured, and Felix was rewarded with immense wealth and noble status. Following the king's recovery, Versailles was hit by a bizarre craze. French nobles began wearing fake bandages on their buttocks to mimic the royal bandage. More importantly, this successful royal operation raised the prestige of surgery, transforming it from a lowly barber's trade into a respected, professional medical science. Our final tragedy takes us to England in the late 18th century, where King George III began losing his mind, earning the tragic title of the Mad King. King George talked incessantly until he foamed at the mouth, dressed inappropriately, and exhibited severe fits of mania that completely baffled the entire British royal court. The royal doctors had no idea how to treat mental illness. They resorted to their favorite tools, binding the king in a straitjacket and chaining him to a chair. To purge the dark madness from his body, the physicians forced him to swallow heavy doses of emetic tartar, a violent chemical potion designed to induce vomiting. For decades, historians debated his madness. But recently, modern scientists analyzed a well-preserved strand of King George's hair and discovered something absolutely shocking inside his locks. The king's hair contained arsenic levels over 17 times higher than normal. The antimony medicines forced down his throat were heavily contaminated with this deadly toxic poison. This meant his well-meaning royal physicians, desperate to cure his mania, were actually feeding him heavy doses of poison, making his neurological attacks infinitely worse. Under his doctor's care, King George spent his final years blind, deaf, and locked away, a tragic symbol of the devastating limits of 18th century medicine. From Charles II to George III, these royal tragedies proved that having the most expensive doctors in the past was a literal death sentence. These high-profile disasters slowly forced the public and scientists to realize that the ancient theory of bodily humors and purges was a complete fraud. In the 19th century, brave medical pioneers began abandoning bloodletting and poisonous compounds, turning instead to direct observation, clinical trials, and rigorous scientific experimentation. Doctors slowly learned about germ theory and the vital importance of washing hands, sterile surgical environments, and keeping hospitals clean to prevent deadly infections. The next time you complain about visiting a modern clinic, remember the kings of the past who paid with their lives for the cutting-edge medicine of their day. If you love uncovering the grim, bizarre, and unglamorous realities of history, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Chrono Daily, and share this video. Thank you for watching, and stay curious, because history is always much dirtier, stranger, and far more terrifying than the school textbooks ever let you believe.